When you're creating a graph on Google Sheets, you'll need to go to your drive and click on New, and you'll have to open up a Google Sheets document in order for you to get started. Now, this lab, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating solubility curves. So I definitely want to give my spreadsheet a title. So I will copy out solubility curves for various salts. Okay, and then what I'd like you to do is include your name in this document title. So mine is Gemma Warner. And how we're going to set this up is what you need to know is column A, whenever you're creating a graph, is devoted to the x-axis. So the x-axis is the independent variable, the variable that you are changing within an experiment. So in this particular case, we're going to devote the x-axis to our temperature values. Now, we usually want to include the unit for that. So temperature can be measured in Celsius, Fahrenheit, Kelvin. So in this particular case, we did Celsius. Unfortunately, a limitation of Google Sheets, it doesn't allow us to make that a subscript or a superscript. So we'll just leave it at that. If I want to make this column a little bit bigger so that it doesn't encroach on the column B, then I can just move that over. Now, the various temperatures are listed for your data table. And what we're going to do is we're going to list the various salts across the top in the same row. So this is what you should end up creating. Now, again, don't worry too much about not being able to minimize those subscripts there for each of the salts. Okay, so we definitely have our temperature, our salts across the top, and then you want to fill in the values that you got from the simulation. So I know for ammonium chloride, it was 30 grams, and you don't want to put units in, you just want to put numerical values in right now. So I'm just going to make up some of these other values. Let's say it was 54, and let's say this was 62. So again, these values I'm just making up right now, just so that you can see how this will work. So when you are entering in your values, you are going to be creating 5 different solubility curves on one chart. So if I was to put in 20 here, 23, 25, and 43. So I'll just do it for a couple here, 32, 41, 51. And again, these are just made up values. You need to get the ones from the lab. So I've created those. You will click on the insert chart here, or you'll go to insert and you'll click on chart here. It doesn't matter how you get to it. And notice that no data comes up. So what we need to do is we need to select and highlight the data that we want to enter. And now we should be able to create a chart. Now it's going to pop up with the chart that it thinks is best. This is not the one that we want. We definitely want what is referred to as a line graph. And we're going to get the various points like that plotted. You can make it a little bit more curved if you want, somewhat of a smooth line. Now you're going to notice that we don't get any data points at the bottom here. So we want to make sure that we have clicked at the bottom of the setup, use row 1 as headers. So that's important. And we notice that we still are not getting these data x-axes plotted. So I want to just double check on here. If I click use column A as labels, that enables these axes values to show up, which is perfect. I notice that I don't have any headings for my axes, which is not good. So then you go into customize, and we have to go into chart and axis titles, and I want to give my graph a title. So again, I'll choose the same title that I did for my spreadsheet title. So solubility curve for various salts. And then I notice that I can also give my horizontal axes a title. So that happens to be temperature is my horizontal axis. And I want to include units. I also want to give my vertical axes. So here, my vertical axes is amount, there we go, of solute in grams per 100 milliliters of water. That was the solvent that I used. So you notice that those axes automatically show up. Another thing that I'd like you to do is when you go into customize, there was that tab called series. You definitely want to add some points to your graph. So here I'm going to click on where it says point shape, and I'm going to click on circle, and it allows those points to show up. Okay. Another thing that you might want to do is, if I continue on, I want to add more grid lines. So I'm going to go down where it says grid lines, and notice that it'll say major grid line and minor grid line. So if you go to major grid line, and let's say that I click on 5, okay, we notice that this graph has been calibrated to give you 5 increments. I could make that so that my graph now goes up by increment so that I have 10. And this is better when you're extrapolating data so that you can be a little bit more precise in your value that you are trying to figure out. What I'll also do is I'll make sure that was for the vertical axes. I'm going to switch to the horizontal axes, and I may do the same. Now this squishes my graph a little bit, so that's a little too much. So I'll change that to maybe back to 5. Maybe I'll switch it to 8. Nope. 9. Nope. I don't like that. So I'll go back to what they suggested, and I can add some minor grid lines and switch that. Let's say I make that 4. So then I know that this is 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. So I know that this temperature right here is going to be 35 degrees. Okay, so that makes sense to me. And then if I go up and let's say that I touch at this point where my arrow is, I know that that is somewhere between 20 and 30 grams dissolved. So I'll estimate that to be about 24 grams at 30 degrees. So that's how we do that. If you want to make this a little bit bigger, you just click on these 3 dots. You say move to own sheet. Okay. What I'm going to have you do is share your graph with me through the drive. And the way that you're going to share that, after you've moved it to its own sheet and it's nice and big like that, you do want to make sure that your title has your name in it. So make sure your name, and you'll see that I just clicked on the title and I made my name go there. I'm going to go to share. You're going to type in my name, Gemma Warner-Savio, and then you will send that to me. Okay. So what I would like you to do is to complete the lab, create the graph, share the graph with me, and I will get notification once it's shared with me. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out.